What's up? So today we're going to be doing a bit of a different format for a video and going through every single season of Fortnite and looking at what was the best gun of that season. It's something we've never done before, but I thought it was a really cool idea and I wanted to give this a try. And so since the concept is pretty straightforward, I think we should just hop straight into it. All right. Let's do this. So before we even start talking about season 1, we need to talk about the preseason. Now, between September 12th and October 25th was the preseason of Fortnite, and it was a weird time as far as guns went. Weapon balance was pretty non-existent at this point. You had some of the most ridiculous weapons in the game, along with some of the worst weapons we've ever seen. And a few weapons that probably come to mind as being the best might be the Scar and even the Pump this early on. At the time though, the Pump really hadn't been figured out, and while the Scar was really good, there is one other weapon that was in the preseason that I think beats it. And that is of course the legendary Zapatron. It's a weapon we've talked about a million times on this channel, but it would land 150 shots. So that alone makes it pretty good. It's a weapon that was only in the game for a day, but whenever you talk about preseason Fortnite, this is a gun that always gets mentioned, and I think it deserves the shout out. Now, before we move on to season 1, I did just want to take a quick minute to tell you guys about today's sponsor, which is the phone book. So launched as a Kickstarter campaign, the phone book allows you to turn any smartphone into a laptop. By connecting your smartphone, you combine the apps and games of your phone with the controls and larger screen of a computer. This makes it possible to watch Netflix and other videos on a bigger screen, can increase work productivity, and most importantly, it gives you a huge advantage for mobile gaming. And it's super versatile as you can use the touchscreen feature to give you the feel of a big tablet or set up custom keybinds for a real PC gaming experience with all your favorite games like Fortnite and Pocket Edition Minecraft. And again, it's all powered by your phone. Overall, I just think it's a super cool idea, as every year or two, you're probably already buying a new phone that has the latest tech and is super powerful. So by having this, you basically can have a new upgraded computer every year. And on top of that, if you follow the link down in the description and order within the next week, you can get a huge discount. And you'll also get a free carrying case. So it'll probably make for a good Christmas present, and if it's something you guys are interested in, top link in the description. Anyways, let's move on. So, season 1 of Fortnite. There are again a few weapons that definitely stand out as being some of the best. While I think a lot of people might be likely to again say that the Pump was the best of season 1, I would honestly disagree. Double pumping in season 1 hadn't really caught on at all, so you basically just had a really good weapon that had better range than it does now. The Pump had very long range and also was very good with 250 something headshots, but isn't the best gun from season 1. And that's because it's overshadowed by the Big Daddy Scar. We're not talking the Scar that you guys know and love today. No, the old Scar was a beast. Now, if not for the Zapatron, this also probably would have been the best in the preseason, but is unanimously the best for season 1. 39 damage for a normal shot and a 98 damage headshot made this thing just an absolute incinerator. The 2.5 times headshot multiplier was just absolutely broken, and the season Scar was an absolute beast for the time that it existed. It did eventually get patched, but during its reign, it was a scary weapon to behold. Now, moving on to number 2, we're probably at what all you guys have been waiting for, and that is, of course, the double pump. Now, the Scar was still a great weapon in season 2, and really, I think it's in the debate of every single season on this list, but there's no messing with the double pump. By December, people were really starting to figure out that this was just insane. You had guys like Daquan coming onto the scene and just showing off how absolutely devastating this thing was. By January, this truly was the meta and would basically continue to be so all the way through to the end of season 3. And moving on to season 3, I think the double pump is probably another good candidate. But for the sake of making this video not too boring, let's talk about some other weapons. I think a guided missile is something that often goes overlooked. Added midway through season 3, this thing often gets forgot just due to how many times it got nerfed. But that season 3 guided missile was OP. Now at solos, I would consider this thing to be manageable at best. But once you started getting into duos and squads where you had more than one person sending these at you at the same time, all bets were just absolutely off. In a squad, all you had to do was get 4 of these, sit on a hill, and just bully a single teammate on another squad until they go down, repeat the process. It gets easier every time. Easy wins. It went fast, it did 100 damage, and really just had very little counter unless you were a top tier player. So while the double pump definitely is at the top of the list, I think the guided missile needs some love as well. And honestly, for that matter, maybe even the LMG. I remember there was a clip of Ninja back in the day just running into everyone, spamming the LMG on them, and people quickly realized that this thing was a pretty good weapon as well. But anyways, with that said, let's move on to Season 4. Season 4 was interesting because we actually saw the removal of the double pump. But fortunately for us noobs, there was a very powerful weapon to take its place, and that was the drum gun. Now, often considered to be a Season 5 Fortnite, the drum gun was actually added in the second last update before Season 5. Now, the heavy usage for it wasn't there in Season 4, but it was still a drum gun. It's kind of like talking about the double pump in Season 1. Like, the ability to double pump was there, but no one was doing it, and I feel like in Season 4, no one was really yet talking about how good the drum gun was. There was still, however, the tactical SMG with all its beefy buffs. And that TAC SMG was basically the same one we saw at the end of Season 10. And I mean, obviously, again, the Scar deserves a mention here, but I really think it's got to go either to the drum gun, if you want to count it, or at least the TAC SMG. Now, moving on to Season 5, no matter what way you want to spin it, the drum gun gets a mention here. Even after nerfs, the drum gun was still powerful, accurate, and could just spam for days. I would say overall the drum gun was probably the best weapon, again, of Season 5. Pre-nerf, the double barrel shotgun is something that also probably deserves a mention. A full shot was able to land around 150 damage and really just send you right back to the Fortnite lobby. And I think really if you're going to talk about the best weapons of Season 5, it's got to be one of these. But I would throw 2 honorable mentions out to the compact SMG and the heavy sniper, and also the Scar, but the Scar is literally just on every honorable mention on this list. But the compact SMG in Season 5 was really good, and I mean, the heavy sniper never really changed from here, but it was added in, so again, deserves a mention. But moving on to number 6, we saw the introduction of a very beefy boy. And that was actually the gold and purple pump. Added in September of 2018, this quickly became the best weapon in all of Fortnite. By this point, there had been so many complaints about the drum gun that it had really finally been nerfed into the ground, and well, the pump was here to delete your career. In gold, this was the weapon that would do 48 damage a shot and 96 headshots, so also pretty devastating. But I wouldn't say that it was quite the standout weapon as the pump was. Now, moving on to Season 7, you might be thinking again that it's gotta be the pump. Nothing changed about the pump in Season 7, so how could it not be the best gun in the game? Well, actually, in this case, there was not a gun that was the best weapon in the game, but a melee weapon. The pickaxe actually increased from 10 to 20 damage, making it the best. I'm sorry, I'm joking. No, ladies and gentlemen, it was the Infinity Blade. Another weapon I feel like we've talked about a million times on this list. The Infinity Blade might just be the most overpowered thing to ever grace Fortnite. Granting the player siphon, health regeneration, and 400 total health, this thing made you pretty invincible. You'd land 75 damage a swing, you could build with it. There was really nothing you couldn't do with this guy. Maybe you couldn't take on a squad, but at least in solos, it was just a guaranteed win. And besides all the other things that were already in the game, like the Scar and the gold pump, we should also probably give an honorable mention to planes. While certainly not the best weapon in the game, they were pretty good, and they deserve a mention. I hate planes, by the way. I really, really hate planes. Now, moving on to Season 8, we saw the introduction of a few very fun weapons. A lot of players are probably going to want to think to one of the most fun weapons ever added into Fortnite, which is the Flintlock pistol. I mean, with a headshot, this thing was almost capable of doing 200 damage, and it also came with the added bonus of no fall damage. But despite how good the Flintlock was, it wasn't the best weapon of Season 8, because of course that honor is reserved for the boom bow. I think the boom bow also deserves a spot on the most OP weapons list of all time. The real life equivalent to getting a boom bow in the early game is like being born with $1 million. There's just no way that anyone is going to be able to compete with you. Everyone has 100 health, and you have a spammable weapon with splash that does over 100 damage. Getting one in one of your first chests literally just meant like an easy 5 kills right out the gates. It was insane late game, and don't even get me started on Team Rumble. That I do kind of miss. The boom bow was just an overall overpowered beast, and it was by far the best weapon of Season 8. Now, moving on to Season 9, I think this is something everybody knows what's what. It is the combat shotgun. The combat shotgun literally doesn't even have any competition. I mean, yeah, you might want to talk Scar again, but I don't think so. You can outplay someone that has a gold Scar. You could never outplay someone with a combat shotgun. On top of that, the pump was vaulted, so if you didn't get one of these things, your options were a tac shotgun and a drum shotgun, both of which had less range and did less damage, so good luck beating someone with a combat. And now finally topping out Chapter 1 with Season X, we have, well, it kind of depends what we have. I think a lot of people are probably just going to want to go with mechs, the Brute. Yeah, I mean, the rocket launcher of the Brute. I think that's probably the most overpowered thing to ever grace Fortnite. I think that might be our #1 spot. I mean, the ability to send out 8 to 12 rockets that all do 50 damage on a player in succession, spamming succession, that's a little broken, don't you think? And honestly, if you don't want to count vehicles, we've also got a gun that really stood out. The legendary and purple tac SMG. I mean, this thing actually could kill you faster than a mech, just took a little bit more skill. As far as guns go, I would say the tac SMG, but overall, it's gotta be the mech. And ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to the final season we can cover, and that is Chapter 2, Season 1. So overall, I don't like the true answer to this, so I'm gonna give you that, and then something that I think is a little bit more fun. The real answer that I don't really like to conclude this video is probably the Scar or the pump. I mean, it's just a boring answer because these have been in the game for so long now. But there is at least one weapon that I think is a competitor and a lot of people consider to be the best gun in the game now, especially controller players because of auto aim, and that is the AUG. Now, I actually just recently made a video where you guys ranked the weapons, and a lot of people made the comment that while the AUG is a solid gun on PC, where it really shines is on consoles where you have auto aim. That was something I hadn't considered, and a lot of people said that, so it's kind of changed my mind a little bit. I'm personally not a console player, but a lot of people do consider the AUG to be the best weapon of this season. So at the very least, I think it does come down to a lot of preference, and if we want to make this video a little bit more fun, why don't we just call it a three-way tie between the Scar, the pump, and the AUG. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our list. So thank you guys for making it all the way through in this one. I really like this format, and I think I want to do it for a few more topics. Also, again, I just want to give another last shout out to the sponsor of today's video, and that was the phone book. We don't do a lot of brand deals on this channel, but this was something that was just so cool. I thought it was a great alternative for you guys who maybe don't have gaming computers or anything like that. So if you do want to check that out, link in the description. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you later. Peace out, you freaking nerds. And again, it's all powered by your phone. God dang it. And again, it's all powered by your phone. Whatever. And you know, if we want to make this video just